amazing grace, how sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. It was the song my mother sang in sweet and humble voice, like music from the world above. It made my soul rejoice. Its soothing words and melodies like the rippling waters flow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. The sweetest, most wonderful song I know. The sweet, I've heard them sing, He paid the price and Jesus bore it all. I've heard them sing, I'm coming home, and heed the Master's call. I've heard them sing the modern songs and songs of long ago. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. No sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. It was the song my mother sang in sweet and humble voice, like music from the world above. It made my soul rejoice. Its soothing words and melodies like the rippling waters flow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. The sweetest, most wonderful song I know. I've heard them sing, He paid the price and Jesus bore it all. I've heard them sing, I'm coming home, and heed the Master's call. I've heard them sing the modern songs and songs of long ago. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet that is the sound. No sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. It was the song my mother sang in sweet and humble voice. Like music from the world above, it made my soul rejoice. Its soothing words and melodies like the rippling waters flow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet is the sound. Sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound, is the sweetest song I know. The sweetest, most wonderful song I know. I've heard them sing it.
Welcome. Good evening, and welcome to Dove on the Window. I'm your host, Pastor Wendell Jeffrey. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing tonight, my dear?
I'm wonderful.
You're wonderful. Sorry, we had a little technical situation here. Sorry for the late start. Let's pray as we begin. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for your love and your mercy and your grace. We thank you for this opportunity that we can come tonight and we could share again. We could express our thoughts, and we could listen to the callers around the world and those who are tuning in. We ask, O Holy Father, that you guide our thoughts, and you would help us to hear something tonight, help us to discuss something tonight that would draw us closer to you, that would enlarge our territory, that would make us better parents, better children, better friends and family members. Guide us, we pray tonight, in Jesus' name. Amen. And amen. All right.
It's been a wonderful day, huh?
It's a wonderful
nice
day.
And warm.
I'm still on the mend. I'm still on the mend.
But you're doing wonderful.
Still on
You're
the mend.
wonderful.
The Ministry of Social Protection opened yesterday. They opened a facility there in Sophia. I'm very excited about the facility for single mothers particularly who have problems with, maybe domestic violence, or they're unable to take care of their children. And the facility has been opened. The president was there, His Excellency David Granger. Honorable Amna Ali, Minister of Social Protection, also had the director of the Child Protection Agency, Miss Anne Green, as they opened that facility. It's nice because it's one of the best practices around the world, where they have these facilities that help, mothers who find themselves otherwise challenged. So it's a beautiful. Those of you who might know some person that might need to find housing there, you can contact the Social Protection Agency or the Child Care Social Protection Ministry, or
the Child Care
Child Care Agencies. These compartment. All right, last week we were dealing with we still deal with parental styles.
Yeah, we still
parental styles. And last week we dealt with. Go ahead. You go ahead. Let me get this phone online. Go ahead.
We were talking about the uninvolved parent, and sort of talked about the fact that we have those who are deliberately uninvolved, and then those that are uninvolved by default, you know, you have to work.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, just circumstances has it that you know, you're uninvolved. Not that you want to be, however, things happen that cause you to be uninvolved. This evening, however, we are going to be dealing with the permissive parenting style. Permissive parenting
How would you define? We dealt with the uninvolved or the indifferent.
Yes, yes.
How would you differentiate between the uninvolved and the permissive?
Well,
Without getting too much into the the trenches.
well, when I think of permissive, I think of allowing.
Okay.
Allowing to do, allowing to be permissive. You allow it to happen. You know, you give, it's as though you give permission. It's okay. If you want to do it, you do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. You know, it's up to you. While in one case, that case, you know, you're allowing things. The child wants to do it, you let them do it, whether it's the best thing or not. And then you may have, then you have those now who are intentionally uninvolved. It's almost as though, I think it almost, can we say it's almost the same thing?
What? The permissive and the uninvolved?
The person who purposely is not involved with the children, and those who are permissive for whatever happens.
There's some
Similarities.
There's some similarities, except the person who is uninvolved have nothing to do.
Or to give.
As we go forward, you would see they're just switched off.
Switched off.
While the permissive is more indulgent.
So you're there.
You know what's happening, but the child is who is running the show. The literature says that the parents of the permissive kind of parenting style, they find it difficult to set limits for the child. So they don't set any limits for the child. They see themselves more as wanting to be the child's friend.
Oh,
Okay. They want to be the child's friend, so they don't set limits, and if they do, they're very inconsistent in the limits they set. So one thing is wrong today, but tomorrow that thing that was wrong yesterday can be right today. That kind of, depending on the tantrum that the child throws.
I was thinking about
Right.
that. I was thinking about that, you know, those throwing those tantrums in the supermarket, you know, in those public places. I often say sometimes I think those children know that they are embarrassing their parents
Yes.
with those tantrums, so that the parents just so that you can keep quiet, I'll allow
you
it.
You
Yeah.
permit. You permit
it to happen.
They take a hands-off approach.
So this is not like we are saying I'm home with the child. However, if the child wants to do their homework, they do it. If they want to take a shower, they take a shower. What are we talking about?
The permissive parent is a parent that would say, Dexter, we call the name, it's time to do your homework. And Dexter says, Mommy, me ready. You know it's time for the child to do the homework based on the schedule that you have or the schedule you like to have. But the child retaliates. And rather than you be parental enough to say, no, it's time for you to go and do this. So the child keeps a lot of noises, begins to cry, and then you find yourself permitting the child to do what the child wants to do.
Or the child would say, just give me one more hour. You know, give me an hour, and every time, just one more hour and finish this. I got it. Especially if they're playing a game, they're playing those games. They want another hour.
Right,
and you finish playing the game. You permit it.
And you permit. The permissive parent also, they relish the consequences that the child will face. So the permissive parent will say, Don't go and swim, for
Okay,
instance.
yes.
Like my permissive parent, I'm drawing this. A permissive parent might tell a child, don't do something.
Yes.
And the child might say, but mommy or daddy, and you know the child shouldn't do it. And what you do is you hope that when the child does it, the child gets hurt.
There's a consequence that
Right.
the child has
And
to
so
deal
you
with.
don't want to parent the child to cause the child to not go down that road to get hurt. But because you're a weak parent, a permissive parent is a
Yeah,
weak parent.
yeah.
Because you're weak, you hope that the child would get hurt.
Okay.
And then the child you would be able to say, I told you so, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
So it's almost as though the child is jumping on the bed, and you say, Johnny, stop
Correct.
jumping on the bed.
And the child keeps
And
jumping,
yes,
and rather than you,
and-
correct.
And then, like a lot of children, Johnny say, nothing is going to happen to
Correct.
me. And you say, okay, all right, and you gone. Next thing you know, you're hoping that Johnny
Right,
would
would
fall
jump.
from the bed
Right.
and bumps his head or something,
Correct.
and come running and crying to you, and then you can say, I told you not to jump on the bed.
Right.
Oh, so basically, we are allowing the child to do things that we know, or we are hoping, should I say, we are hoping that the child will face a consequences for this,
Right, the negative
for
thing.
whatever it
right.
is the
So we
person
could say,
they're going to
correct,
do.
Correct. And the permissive parent is a loving, I want to say that, the permissive parent is a weak parent. However, the permissive parent is a loving parent. It's
Okay.
just that they don't know how to limit the child. So it's not that the parent doesn't love the child. It's just that the parent is weak. If you're a permissive parent, you're weak. And the child is who is running things.
So I'm trying to figure out, how as a parent I would become so weak that I don't set limits for my child. Is it because that is how I was brought up?
Correct. It could be, right.
So I'm just carrying on what it is I used to do.
It could be a number of things. You can, when you have, the ideal for a child is a mother and father raising the child.
Correct.
If a mother is left alone with a child or with children, it is likely that one of the default behaviors of that single parent, and let me go both ways, both if the father is left with the child
Yes,
or the mother is left with the child, one of the default behaviors is permissiveness, because you tend to think that the child is only behaving in this way because the child is lacking something.
Okay.
So a mother might be tempted to think, look, this child misses his or her dad.
Okay.
So that if I know that the child had enough sweets and the child should not be having any more, and the child cries, "Ah," I say, well, look, okay, here are some more sweets because you miss your daddy
Okay.
or you miss your mommy. So the permissive parent loves the child, but is permissive because of a fear that if they restrict the child is going to suffer some lack, or the child is not going to love them.
Okay.
Right? They want the child's affection.
Okay.
And so one of the things they do is they permit the child or the children to go beyond the boundaries, to go beyond the limitations that the parent themselves know the child should not cross, but because of their own, idiosyncrasies, their own mindset, a single parent, a broken parent, an abused parent, or something like that, they give in to the children.
You don't want that child to say, I don't like you.
Correct.
I remember
Right.
when I was
There
living
we
in
go.
Trinidad, I had a friend who had a little boy, and every time she had to discipline him, he would always say, I don't like you.
Right.
That was the first thing would come out of his mouth. So therefore, as a permissive parent, I am scared that my child and I will not have the relationship that I want this child to have.
You're scared that your child will not like you.
Okay, so this child is not liking me. So when you talk about like, you're talking about coming to me explain a little bit when you say like. This, I'm afraid that this child is not going to like me.
You're afraid that if you don't indulge the child, the child might run away from home, or the child might not engage you in matters that they are interested in. You're afraid that the child is going to, you might even be afraid that the child would hurt you. Okay, or the child would embarrass you. So you want to make sure that the child remains your friend, without realizing that by doing that you are further complicating the situation. That is why you have a lot of times. I was at the national park last weekend, and I saw a parent. She could have been a grandmother, because grandparents are young these days, or it could have been a mother, and she is abusing this little child, slapping the little boy. And when I saw it, I cringed and I went over to her. And then I realized what happens is that when you permit the children to engage in certain behaviors at home,
Yes.
because you don't restrict them, the child does not know instinctively that they should not behave the same way in public.
In public, okay.
So the child now brings that behavior in the public, and it overwhelms you. So you are now caused to swing the pendulum from being permissive to being authoritative.
Yeah, it's like
And so you led now to embarrass by force.
Yes.
Your own self-preservation kicks in now. And you led now to embarrass both yourself and the child. Because when you have to cuss the child, or you have to beat so abusively, you have to assault the child, or yell or something, then both you and the child are now embarrassed,
because
publicly.
it's as though people are watching you and seeing that you in fact, when it happens, people watch you in amazement to see the relationship, what is going on at the time.
Correct.
So for permissiveness, I'm thinking, is it possible that permissiveness could happen just like how we have the parent who's uninvolved?
Meaning what?
I'm permissive because I'm not around as often.
Correct.
As I
It's
should
a
be.
compensation. You can be permissive, okay. Again,
It's like a father. Okay. I'm a mother who's raising these children, and the child spends time by the father,
okay.
and the child goes over to the father. However, because the father is not having that time with the child as often as he should have been, was he in the home, he allows things, because it's almost as though I'm making up for the lost time.
Correct.
So, okay, I get this child every week.
Overcompensating.
Yes, I get this child every other weekend. So I got to ding, one after the next. I got to shop wherever the child wants. I allow the child to get this thing. Basically, I'm spoiling this child because I have to make up for what it is I am not, the child is not getting from me during the regular week hours.
Correct. And so, and then there's an extension to that, because when the child is growing up in this broken home setting, where the child spends some time with one parent and then spends some time with another parent, what the children learn to do is play the parents.
Yes.
And so the child will say, "Mommy does allow me to do this."
Yeah.
And then you find yourself, that you should not allow the child to do that, but because the child says, "Mommy allows me," or "Daddy allows me," you find yourself permitting behaviors that should not be permitted. So you got to be careful, because when you allow the children to do things that they shouldn't do, you are perpetuating negativities, and you've got to be very careful, because quite often they come back to haunt you.
Right, to bite you.
The-
And the thing is, a lot of times we do these things with the little ones. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. So that when they become 10 now, it's even more. Because now they
No,
throw...
that's what I was going to say. When you say you do it with the little ones, I was going to say you really don't do it with the little ones.
You start with the
begin
little
with the little
ones.
ones.
Yes, you start with the little
Because you
ones.
find that the behavior perpetuates itself. And
So when the child becomes 10 years old now, the permissiveness is even more serious. Because, and when I say serious now, I mean, you have this 10-year-old that you have been training all the while, allowing them to do things. And then all of a sudden now,
you can't stop.
You can't stop.
It just moves to another
you
level.
can't stop. You can't stop. And the 10, 11, 12 years...
Probably grew up to permissive parents or uninvolved parents. We have 2 other parental styles we'll discuss as we move forward. And so it is broken children who grow up to be broken adults. And if you grew up in a home where your parents were permissive, the literature says that you grow up as a confused adult because you were not taught limits. A permissive parent does not hold you to limits.
Yeah.
Because when a permissive parent says you had enough sweets, you cry and they give you
Give me
more.
more.
It's time for you to do your homework. You cry, you don't do no homework.
Yep.
It's time for you to go brush your teeth. You cry, you don't brush your teeth. So you get rotten teeth. You grow up with less academic abilities.
As you should have,
You
yeah.
understand? You grow up, you're now broken
Yeah.
because you grew up in a permissive home. So when you are permissive to your children, you are perpetuating your negativities. So that child is likely to grow up to be a child who is now a victim
Yep. Of that
permissive parent and now brings those negativities into their adult
Yep.
lives.
So you see them at work, at church.
Correct.
It's almost as though they're grown adults throwing tantrums when they can't get their way.
Right,
You know,
right.
at,
So
at
grow
church
up,
meeting,
you
at
could tell,
school,
you know,
at
church boards.
workplace.
You could look, those of you who sit on church boards and elders
And
council
boards,
and
all
so on.
those things, all
You
those
could
type
you
of
could you could
boards.
tell you could sit back every now and again and you could decipher who came from what kind of who came, because we grew up to be broken.
Yep.
And that is why, if I might, that is why I'm not very quick to be critical of people. Because you see a person act and you want to think that person should know better. But you don't know the person. You don't know where the person came from. Sometimes you thinking that person should know better without understanding that person was worse yesterday.
Where that person
So where that
came
person
from
is
today.
better than where they were. So I am not quick. And some people say that you're liberal. Some people say that you are indulgent. But I am not quick to be critical of people because as a unofficial sociologist, I like to step back and observe people.
Not only that, sometimes it's as though you want to say to somebody, you don't know my story.
Right.
I don't know your story.
Correct.
So therefore, I can pound you on the head because of your attitude, because I have to basically try to understand as best as I can
Correct.
where you came from and how far you have come,
Correct.
and the improvements you've made, etc.
And my intention, I want to understand people. Okay? I have a desire to understand people. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. One of the habits, he says, seek first to understand, than to be understood. So I want to understand people. I am not quick to join the group of people to condemn and to stereotype. I want to understand.
It is necessary to understand people. It is. In order to help someone, you must know, you must be able to understand where they're coming from, what they're dealing with. A lot of times we try to as it were, to knock people.
Without trying to understand them.
When you understand the situation, then you have to say, oh, shucks. I'm sorry.
Let's take a call. Hi, good evening.
A pleasant good
Hi,
evening.
good evening.
Yeah, turn on your TV, please.
I'll do so, yes. What I want to say, I think the church.
Your TV is still too loud.
Yes. Is it better there?
You're still getting that echo and it sounds
Still
disturbing.
hearing you in the
Okay, let me
background.
call back.
Yeah.
I'll call back.
I'll mute it. All right, thanks.
Probably not close enough to the television. Yes.
So when you do not, well, you said something just now. You said, you talk about on trying to understand people to help them.
Yes.
What we have in a large part is a world that is filled with selfish people. When I was reading a comment the other day where somebody said that they went to an agency and the response that they got, and they were kind of saying, you know, these people, they should know better. And I wrote back and I told the person, you don't know what is happening to the person at the moment. You don't know the stresses of the person at the moment. So rather than you going and she should know better, she's a public servant, you don't know what is happening to the person. And so what we have is a world filled with people who are very exacting. I want my pound of flesh. And so nobody really wants to, or a lot of people, or some people, don't want to approach the situation from the point of helping. Okay, I got my own issues. Let them try they. And so we have that happening without sufficient people stepping back to say, you know, why is she behaving that way? No, they got some people who have naturally ingrained ridiculous attitudes.
Okay.
Okay, they are snobs. They don't care. That is them. It's their modus operandi. However, there are some people who are just caught up in the moment. And a kind word, the Bible says, turn it away wrath.
And as we are talking about what happens to the children who are parented by permissive parents, what we have to do sometimes is, as you watch the adults, I'm speaking specifically about the adults, as we watch the adults that we are interacting with, sometimes you have to find ways to help them, because sometimes they don't even know.
Correct.
They don't even understand that what they are doing, it has been going on with them for so long. They've been able to get their way for so long that we have, and as it were, you got to be able to say, yeah, we got a call.
We got a call.
Take this call.
Hi, good evening.
I'm listening to your comments. We have a lot of educational programs to put out in such a way, because when you said that the people have ingrained problems, and a man jump in a car and drive, and I'm speaking from experience, the man jump in a car and he drove this car in such a manner that tells you he don't care about anybody, especially these minibus drivers and these taxi drivers and so on. That he just care about his daily bread, or his daily $20. So when you in the way, he drove his car in such a manner that shows he don't care about nobody else but himself.
Okay.
And that's why you'll have a lot of accidents in the society, and you have a lot of murders in the society, because let me say a man like that now, proper man, why don't go to work? What do you think can happen, sir? It's chaos in this land. We have to have a lot of educational programs to put out there to see how we can help these people.
Okay.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you so much. You see, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And you know, Celia and I, you and I have come from a background of parental ignorance, okay? Our parents did not furnish us with sufficient access to the education we needed. And so you and I have had to go out there, and through divine intervention, we have been able to achieve what we have achieved. And so you begin from the acknowledgement, and that is what you and I do. We begin from the position of understanding that we are ignorant.
Exactly.
And when you admit that you are ignorant, then you expose yourself to knowledge. But if you think you know, if you think you already know, then you shut yourself, you lock yourself in.
Lock yourself in.
So for parents who might be watching, it is okay to say, I don't know. And then
That is me. That is what I do. That is how I do.
Right.
Because I don't
But
know
I
how
want
to do
to-
differently.
correct.
However, I want to do differently.
Correct.
You know, and there are things that we can do. Sometimes we can talk. As I said, I remember growing up, I spent a lot of time, because my mom was at work. During summer vacations and stuff, I spent a lot of time. And I learned a lot of stuff from being by this big lady. She was, I don't even know how old she was at the time. And she had 2 daughters, and there were 4 girls, 4 grandchildren. And I learned a lot from them, just sitting and listening to the conversations that they had. I mean, about the fathers of the children, you know, just hearing things, you know. And I learned that a lot of times you don't know.
Correct.
You really, really don't know, and you don't even know who to go to
Right.
to help you to know what it is you need to know. So you make all these mistakes. And after you've made the mistakes, then you have to sit now and try to figure out if you want to say it by yourself. And I guess that's where prayers come in. People talk about praying and asking God for wisdom, and God helping them to find ways, because they didn't know who to go to. They didn't want to go to someone who they think would probably give them bad advice, or who would spread their story. So, as I sat there listening, I realized that these ladies did not know what to do to help the situation they were in. They didn't know how to get out, and they didn't know who to go to.
Correct.
And so as I got older, I realized you got to find people. You got to find
You
a
gotta
support
search.
group. You got to find people. You got to talk to people.
And
you
that-
got to
and-
pick people's brain, as it were. You got to see who knows what, so that you can, you know, get the information from them. Because at the end of the day, you want to make yourself better.
Correct.
At the
And
end
that
of
is
the
where
day, you wanna
church,
make
that is
yourself
where
better.
church and religion come in, because the church, the spiritual, where you go to get your spiritual nourishment, that could be a place where, you know, you can have these parental groups, women's ministry, men's ministry, and stuff like that to help. I know that, you know, we, within the Seventh-day Adventist organization, particularly in the Georgetown area, there are a lot of men groups.
Men groups,
we,
yeah.
we
You
as
have
men are
women's
trying to
ministry.
get together, and we trying to do more things as men.
I see
And so
even
I know
the
the women,
singles. You see even the singles are trying to come
folks,
together.
right, are trying to.
Because it is necessary for us to know, in order for things not to continue. I mean, as I said, you have a situation where I am a permissive parent. However, I don't know how not to be permissive.
Correct.
However, if I'm in a group, whether
Correct.
it's the school group or church group, then I can understand that, you know what, I'm really doing wrong by my child.
Correct. Because, so let's look quickly now at some of the resultant effects
Of the permissive parenting.
of the permissive parent. When you
Okay.
when a child is grows up in a home where the parent is permissive, the child acts spoiled,
Spoiled rotten.
right?
Spoiled
So the
rotten, we
child
would
displays
say.
these character traits
Yep.
of being a spoiled child, because the child now at home, the child gets his or
Everything.
her way,
Yep, yep.
and so when they come to the school, when they go to church, they want that same, the child rarely learns respect, because if the parent is permissive, then the parent does not dictate, does not, I want to say, let me use the word. I want to say they don't demand. That's it.
Yes,
They don't demand the
demand.
respect that they have to have from the child. So the child does not know how to be respectful.
Because the
so the
child's not
child
respectful at
treats
home.
other adults
The
the
same
way
way
they
treat
treat their
the
parent.
parents. Yep,
And so
yep.
the child, the child have difficulty controlling his or her behavior, because the child does not learn behavior control.
Yep, so
The child has an inflated sense of self, because at
It's about
home
me.
I do what I want. So at school I do what I want.
Yep,
And at
yep.
church or wherever I go, because the child has this inflated sense of self. The child has also difficulty accepting failures, because nobody tells the child that is not the way
No,
it's done,
okay,
or
okay.
so on. So the child goes out in public, and the child is not taught, acceptable ways of
dealing with
of
failure.
dealing with
Wow.
failure. So
Okay,
the
okay.
child loses a game, the child is angry,
Tantrum and
right?
want
The
cuss
child
up and
wants
break
to
down
fight,
everything. Okay, okay.
the child also is anxious, has a high. Children who grew up in permissive family situations, they're anxious, because again they don't know what is right, what is wrong, and they don't know how to act.
I guess,
They
I guess
behave
waiting in a line for lunch to play basketball,
Right.
to play a game.
Correct.
Ooh,
Correct. They don't have that patience, because there are no limitations
yes,
at home.
at home. So, now
when
you got to
not-
wait in a line
right.
to go to the bathroom. You have to, and
They want
I
to,
get you, I get you,
they're
I get you.
aggressive and domineering and non-compliant. Because don't forget, at home, mommy
who
and
you are.
daddy do not
Tell me
tell me
stop.
no. So when I out, I want to do,
Yep.
Let's take a call. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to
Hi,
you.
good evening,
Pleasant
good
Sabbath
evening.
night.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yes. Sometimes you find because in the home, both parents are different. And you'll find sometimes the parents, when they get out with the children, both parents would blame each other for something
Right.
the child is doing. Is the father or the mother allowing that child to do it? Because they have some parents who tell you, when the child is with me, that child can't behave like that. But if the father has that child like that, or the mother has that child like that. Right? Am I true?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
yes,
right.
yes,
and
yes,
and that is the psychology of the child.
Yep.
Because when the parents are busy blaming the other parent, the child benefits from that.
Exactly.
So the child is very aware of the child understands. In fact, they teach us in psychology that if you really can understand children's psychology, you become the best psychologist in the world, because the children exhibit a level of psychological control over the parent
That's right.
that is a lot more subtle than adult psychological
Control.
manipulations. And so when a parent says, you hear one parent blaming the other parent for the child's behavior, the child benefits from that dysfunctionality. You see?
And the Bible says train up the child, but they're finding out that it's the children training the parents.
Correct.
Yes, they play monopoly with the parents with the children
Yeah,
sometimes because
what-
the children know, and then they'll turn back and say, yes. And you hear children say, Mommy only telling me no now, but later she's going to send me.
Exactly.
Right.
exactly.
If I wear them down, and that is why you need to have, and we talked about that in another session,
Like, I
where
can
you
give
have
an
to have
example about
limits.
a friend or granddaughter who used to call her mommy because she grew with the grandmother, was going to an outing, and she said that, listen, I can't put your food in this Pyrex thing because you're going to break it, and she insists. She said, no, mommy, I wouldn't break it. She was putting it in a plastic Pyrex. She said, no, I wouldn't break it. And she insists, and so the grandmother gave her the Pyrex when she came back from the outing.
Smashed.
The Pyrex bowl break. You know what she told the grandmother?
You should have known.
is your fault.
Exactly.
Yes, you should insist.
Yeah, you should have, you should have insisted.
And there's something.
Yeah, and the story is told of the guy,
You see, yeah, we allow the children sometimes to control us. And another point that you said sometimes with the child, that sometimes they does that things at home and when they get out, so they do it. But I can tell you sometimes, the children really surprises you sometimes when they get out there because Satan is not easy. Sometimes that child never
Exhibit that behavior at home.
I did never ever do that, let me tell you, and so it gets you so mad that they get you out of control because I know I was at a sport with a lady and I know that lady and her child thoroughly. And the child was watching the people them how they were eating and she just tell the little child, Tiana, don't look at them, and the child turned around and handed him out of one box.
Just
that's
So
slip out.
surprised,
That's slip out.
And let me tell you, Satan
Reflex
is what them
action.
up, Sister White says, he uses the little children mind because they can't control themselves. But we, the older ones, we have to help to control
Well,
them.
the Bible speaks of that too, The Bible said that foolishness is bound up.
Bound in the heart of a child.
Foolishness is bound to be hard to try, and the rod of correction,
Drive it
will
far.
drive it far. Thank you so much for calling, sis.
Thank you.
Here, have a pleasant Sabbath and a great weekend. All right? Right. So, some of the other characteristic traits of the children who grew up in a permissive home is that they are non-compliant. They act impulsively. Again,
do
yeah,
things.
because they don't, there's no modus operandi. They're not systematically taught how they should behave. So they're impulsive,
Yep,
you
just do
they're
things.
spontaneous, they're erratic, they're impulsive. And
As we say, you get a vax,
a
and
vox.
you just do something.
Right. Poor emotional regulation. They can't control their emotions sufficiently. Let's take another call. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
You're a counselor, right? Just a counselor or an official sociologist, qualified sociologist?
I'm more a counselor. I'm an unofficial sociologist.
Oh, and he said,
My life experiences
Oh, my life
have taught me,
experiences,
but
okay.
I'm more my pastoral training. We did counseling psychology.
I heard you said something about children being spoiled and so forth. Huh? My son had almost everything he wanted because you don't really give a child everything he wanted. But even though he had almost everything he wanted, he could not have done anything he liked. Huh?
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay.
And another thing,
You're saying that to say what?
oh my God.
Because I realize you're going to pivot to another thing without defining why you said what you said.
You both mentioned the children who get everything.
being spoiled.
Wait. No,
Control,
I want to
huh?
hear what she's saying. No.
Not so, huh?
No, we
the
not.
behaviors of they do anything and what's not, that is not so. Even though a child may be privileged and almost gets everything, definitely they cannot do anything they want.
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember us
She's
saying.
cutting out.
I don't remember us saying that if the child gets everything, the child will be spoiled. That's not.
We were talking about the
And
permissive.
everything, and they can do whatever they want and what's not. It doesn't happen like that in most homes with children who are privileged. It's not because you're getting everything you want or almost getting everything you want. That means that you can do as you like. It doesn't happen like that.
No, I don't think we addressed materialism at all.
No.
What we addressed is the approach to parental structures. We spoke nothing about materialistic
What they
things,
get
what
and
they
stuff
get.
like that.
You don't have to say the word exactly. Children who get everything they want. That's what you said.
All right. So
Okay, let's come off of that.
right. Okay. Good. I was wanting to know what is the
I
point.
called last week on your parental program, huh?
Okay.
And I commented on a conversation between a teacher who is a mother and an underage student, which I mentioned to you. Huh? You asked what that has to do with parent. I replied that I replied I would not even bother, huh? Because I thought it was implied, huh? The parental image that she was portraying, huh? That's why I say I wouldn't even bother. Because if you ask me, I am telling you what a parent and a teacher, a parent who's going to mention a mother and what she was saying towards on the age child with the age conversation and what's not. And you say, And your reply was, what I got to do with parenting? You give me 50 seconds. And I said, I won't even bother, because I thought it was implied that I was conveying to you the parental image upon which she was impressed, the parental image more or less
let me see if I could let me see if I could interject. We
Okay,
at the
listen
top
to
of
me.
the hour.
The
Hold a
parental
while.
image that she was
Hold a while for me, please.
portraying towards an impressive
Mom,
level,
mom.
10 seconds. 9.
Mom,
Okay?
what I'm saying to you is that in communication, you have to be careful that you don't assume. Okay, you can't
Tell you a
assume.
conversation that what was said. I said I give you a conversation. I don't want to go over it again. Huh?
Okay, all right.
I give you a conversation. What a teacher said, and what she said when I walked towards approach her. What she said to relating to the AIDS and the rape and what she said, and I mentioned she's a parent, and I also mentioned the child is a teenager.
Okay.
It's a student, which is on the age child, it's a teenager. Huh?
We completely out of time.
Okay.
Right?
Anyway,
we completely out of time.
just one little thing there. After I put down, you replied what that woman was trying to say.
Mom, we are completely out of time. You'll have to call back next week. We're completely out of time, and we have some more that pastor is coming up at the end of this.
Yes.
We have to wrap up. Thank you, folks, for being with us. Sorry for this anticlimax, but we'll continue next week, same time. God bless you real good, and see you at 8 p.m. next Friday for another edition of Dove on the Window. Until then, God bless you. Bye-bye.
So long.
He paid the price in Jesus for it all. I've heard them sing, I'm coming home, and heed the master's call. I've heard them sing the modern songs and songs of long ago. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound, oh how sweet is the sound. No sweetest song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know.